You can hold my hand when you need to let go. I can be a mountain when you're feeling down low. I can be a street light showing you the way home. If you can hold my hand when you need to let go. I want a house with a crowded table and a place by the fire for everyone. Let us take on the world while we're young and able, and bring us back together when the day is done. If we want the garden, we're gonna have to sow the seeds and plant a little happiness, let the roots run deep. And if it's love that we give, then it's love that we reap. So if we want the garden, we're gonna have to sow the seeds. Well, I want a house, and a table, and a place by the fire for everyone. Let us take on the world while we're young and able, and bring us back together when the day is done. The door is always open, your picture's on my wall. Everyone's a little broken, and everyone belongs. Yeah, everyone belongs. Well, I want a house with a crowded table and a place by the fire for everyone. Let us take on the world while we're young and able, and bring us back together when the day is done. And bring us back together when the day is done.
Well, good morning,
Hi.
everybody. Colby in particular, because you said my name. Welcome to Sojourn Grace. All right, here's the thing I'm about to do. Long before pandemic, I had written a welcome to this space, and I had it memorized. I was really on point with my welcome. And Colby reminded me this morning that I used to have a welcome, and I was like, oh yeah.
Oh, right.
Oh yeah, where is that? So I found it. I found it in my Google Drive, and I no longer have it memorized. So I'm going to read you our welcome this morning, but I mean every word of it, okay? So welcome to Sojourn Grace Collective. We're so glad you're here. When you show up in this space, you're showing up for spiritual, social, and emotional wholeness. Whoever or whatever God is to you, you're showing up to reflect on and notice God in others and in yourself. You're showing up to affirm the inherent goodness of others and of yourself. You're showing up for justice for others and for yourself. So we're here to create a space of radical inclusion, a space where your full humanity is affirmed and embraced and celebrated, not just tolerated, but celebrated. No matter who you are or where you are in your journey, you're invited to participate fully in the work and in the play of this collective of people. Radical inclusion means that we affirm your identity in every way that matters to you. It means that we love your gender expression and we affirm your sexual orientation. We love the colors of your skin and we celebrate your cultural background. We love the way that you talk or communicate and we celebrate your age, from brand new to been here a while. We love your religious affiliation or your lack thereof, and we honor the socioeconomic space that you occupy in the world. We love your mind, we honor your body, and we celebrate all the abilities that you bring to the room today. So thank you for making an effort to be here. You too, folks who are here virtually, thank you for making the effort to be here. We hope you'll participate with us, you'll sing with us, you'll move. Feel free to use the space in whatever way feels good to your body. And just connect to your own intuition, to our shared spirit, and to the sacred voice that speaks to you. So there we go. I'll memorize that again.
Nice job.
In the future, but we mean it. Of course, doing that left me no time to tune, so.
We tune because we care.
This is where the and/or of prayer intention happens. Intentional prayer of tuning.
The intentional prayer. Let's pray the guitars in tune. Let's just say that. I will say that this is a song that we've been doing. So the three of us, Karen, Ben, and I, have been gone for a couple weeks. We were on the East Coast doing some shows, and it's so good to be back home. And this is a song that we did a whole bunch over there, and we got in late last night, and we were like, let's just do songs that we've been doing already so that it's easier this morning. But we love this song. It's called Undamned, and it's I just feel like such a perfect little anthem for our space here and what we're doing. So I hope that you feel the power of this song. Sometimes all we believe turns out to be just a scam, just trying to get my world, get it undamned. It's been my lifelong song. Who'll take me just as I am? Help me to get my world, get it undamned. I've got 1,000 lost souls,
Far too many, they just got away.
I've done 1,000 things wrong,
Far too many for me to name.
but I'm not too far gone to fall headlong into the arms that love me. Well, don't count me out just yet. I'm not your little lost lamb. God might still get my world, get it undamned. I got 1,000 lost
Far
souls.
too many, they just got away.
I've done 1,000 things wrong,
Far too many for me to name.
but I'm not too far gone to fall headlong into the arms that love me. I've got 1,000 lost
Far too
souls.
They just got away.
I've done 1,000 things wrong,
Far too many for me to name.
but I'm not too far gone to fall headlong into the arms that love me. No, I'm not too far gone to fall headlong.
Without the sound. We need the sound. Oh, sorry.
Take this off for a second.
That was noisy. I apologize.
Sweatiness.
It's fine. I like your sweaty mask face. It's nice.
Makes one of us.
That makes
How's it going?
I'm all right. How
How
are you?
was Nashville and North Carolina and where else were you?
Scary. I mean, it was
Kansas?
lovely. We
Did you say
experienced.
scary?
It was it's like the Delta capital of the world right now. So we did a lot of staying inside, and then a lot of staying outside whenever we left the house.
Yeah,
But it was really lovely. The people were lovely. We met some good friends, and it was nice.
I like it.
Yeah. Should we have a collective conversation?
Should we have an awkward and you added today brave and kind, awkward, brave and kind conversation?
Yeah, that's Brene Brown's whole shtick. Awkward, brave, and kind.
It is. I like
Yeah,
it. It
I do
feels
too.
like also a Sojo thing. Okay, y'all, this is the most awkward time in our service.
Welcome.
But we're trying to merge the worlds of this is what we did during just virtual church when we couldn't actually be together, but we didn't want to just talk at you. We wanted to talk to each other. It was such a beautiful time of connection during
It
that
was.
time. And then we opened back up for in person, and it's still very beautiful and a little more awkward.
Kinda
so
weird.
you sitting in your seats, hop on your phones too if you want, but also shout out in the room, and we'll make it through together, and we will connect. I like this one. I think we've done this before, but I don't care. I really like it.
Oh, yeah. I like it too.
If you could instantly become an expert in something, what would it be?
I mean, mine right now is playing guitar because it'd be really useful if I could.
You're in an Enneagram 3, so you're like everything.
So all of the things.
all of the things.
But
I
the
want
most
to be
immediately
expert in
relevant
the
would be the
things.
guitar thing because that would be just super useful right
If
now.
you didn't have to learn and practice and
No.
fail and
Yeah.
all of that. Okay, what about y'all in the room? Go ahead, just shout it out. Oh,
See, that's
a good
good
one.
answer.
Yeah, Francesca said all the languages for you online. What? Communication?
An expert in communication.
I actually really need that.
I was going to say, you'd become really useful to everyone really fast,
Yeah.
which could be a bit much.
What else we got? On the webs, we have a painter. Will Houston says painter. We've got Christy says human development. Katie says cooking. James says playing piano. We've got Alexa said, is Alexa here though? And online? Nice. Alexa said carpentry. I'm like, I think that's an in-person person online. I love it. I love to see it. Oh, and Susan is here too and says baking.
Lisa says
Oh,
languages
sign language.
too. Oh, sign language
Ty's
would be
learning
nice.
sign language at school right now.
Holly says gardening. That's nice.
That is nice. Anybody else? Expert?
Expert in a thing. It's too
Not.
soon. It's too soon.
Ooh,
Oh,
I like it. Okay.
what song best describes your life? This could get really sad and
Handy
really
woman
funny.
with the ability to fix everything around the house. Oh, okay, I'm Donna. Sorry, I'm back at the other question.
That's
really
fine.
quick.
We can go back.
I want to be able to fix everything in my house all on my own, to never have to call a plumber or anybody, like just be able to do it all myself.
That'd be
Which I
rad.
think the only way to do that is to just do it. Which one time, one of my children, I won't name them because they're sitting in this room, but you know, like the foam letters, like the toy foam letters, the entire alphabet, this child decided to flush down the toilet, the whole alphabet. So I had to uninstall the toilet and reinstall the toilet.
And you did that?
Yeah, and I
Okay.
got all 26 letters out of.
I feel like if you could do that, you're like halfway there to being able to do all of the handy things.
My
Check
kids
that
are
off
back
the-
there just like,
Wasn't
nobody look at me.
The other kids. One of the others.
Okay,
Okay.
last awkward question. What song best describes your life?
Aw, like the Girl Boy song? Nice.
Oh, I love it. No, yes.
Okay.
The Chicks, yes.
She said
I
not
love
ready
it.
to make nice.
I can't think.
Hi, Laura. Glad you're here.
Dance with you. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. That was awesome.
What do we have on
It feels so limiting to me.
I
to
can't
pick
do it.
a
I'm
song
telling you
that
right
best
now.
Describes my life.
There's no way. I really appreciate that other people have answers to this question because I for sure do not.
I wanted to say the Chicks Cowboy Take Me Away, but that seems a little awkward, so I won't say it.
Right, exactly. I could come up with a reason not to say all of the ones I have in my head. Somehow it all belongs.
Trees, 21 Pilots. I love 21 Pilots. What else we got? I think people are still saying, Anissa says that's all I know so far, Pink's
Yeah.
newest song, which
That's a
are
good one.
lyrics she wrote to her daughter.
Yesterday's Sun by Lifehouse. Oh,
Every little thing she does is magic.
that is yours, Matthew. Stephen says, I want to dance with somebody. The Golden Girls theme song. I can't hear that in my head right now.
Thank you for being a friend.
Yes, apparently.
You're in good company.
Never fear. Karen and Matthew are here. That's awesome.
These were some great answers to that question.
Yeah, you guys had those ready on
I
lock.
feel like we should do a Heathen Happy Hour night
James?
of those songs now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
James says it depends on the day and how I'm feeling. Yeah, same.
That's me too, James.
It's Time by Imagine Dragons. I love Imagine Dragons. All right, y'all have been amazingly awkward, brave, and kind. I really
job.
appreciate it. Francesca, yes. Yeah, we can clap to that. Miss Francesca is going to take kiddos to class upstairs. If you haven't gone yet and would like to, this is the time to do it. And I'm like, what's happening next? I think that we're going to house notes, so I'm going to keep that with me because I'm going to use it here in a second, but I'm going to turn it on mute for a minute. Y'all are going to go over there. I'm going to keep my phone. All right. It is time for just a few quick house notes. House notes. Thank you. Just keeping it alive in here. When not many people are here, we gotta bring the energy. Okay. Info cards, we put those on the table out front, and then there's a box right there. It's just if you need to get hooked up onto the newsletter, which is really important, and I want to add on to that today. Is that me making weird feedback noise? Am I doing something wrong that I should stop doing? No, okay. The newsletter is really important. Like the one that just went out yesterday had in it a survey, because we really love and value gathering feedback from y'all. It really helps us know what to do around here and how to best support our mission of wholeness. So please get signed up for that if you haven't. All the information about what we're up to and what's coming up goes out in that newsletter, and it's so helpful if you receive that. We are not the kind that spams you with like 12 newsletters a week. In fact, sometimes it's like, oh yeah, Kate, get a newsletter out. So when we do send it out, it's just really important stuff, so you can trust that. So again, that's info cards out on the front table, and there's a box to pop them in there, and that will get you subscribed and all the things. Sabbath Sundays, this is something we've been doing just as we've been returning to in-person church. It's really about easing into this merging of virtual church and in-person church and trying to get going again. It's giving us time and energy to do that, and it's honoring that slow coming back from pandemic shutdowns, slow return to normal, whatever that is. And so it's just the last Sunday of the month, taken a break, and we have no exact plan for how long we will do this. It's not a forever thing, it's a right now thing. That's kind of the point, is it's part of this liminal space that we are in. What else? Okay, and so then next is Joybox. And we are going to have a little bit longer of a Joybox talk today, so I'm going to bring up my dear friends, Stephen and Laura. And I'm going to hand the mic off to them. Stephen is the chair of our board at Sojo, and Laura is our treasurer. And yes, otherwise known as the best humans alive. And so I'm going to pass the mic. That is unmuted. You're good to go.
Cool. Thanks, Kate.
Yeah.
So yes, as Kate indicated, so we're here representing kind of our volunteer board. We don't talk about finances very often, particularly over the last kind of year and a half, 2 years. It's been a little bit of a more awkward topic. However, we felt it was maybe time to re-engage on this, not just in advance of Joybox, to really share what we've been able to accomplish. Woo, I said it. I like it. But to share what we've been able to accomplish despite some of the struggles we've had this last year. So, over the last 18 months, even during a global pandemic, we have seen some trends in our giving. I think we have a slide that might pop up behind me. I created this morning, so if it's a little bit of an eye chart, I apologize. Oh, we don't have, just kidding, we don't have that slide because it's Mac, PC, you guys get it. So ultimately what we were showing is, in 2019, you can see a pretty consistent but also like spiky trend in our giving. In 2020 and 2021, unsurprisingly, we saw a little bit of a decline. As the pandemic hit and people's resources were strapped, a lot of uncertainty settled in. We were kind of prepared for that. But one of the things that we wanted to point out is despite kind of giving dropping in that like 30% range, it also then sustained. It was more sustainable than we had ever seen before with consistent monthly giving that was just kind of amazing. I think we were expecting a lot of people to kind of stop, as we stopped coming in person, as people's financial situations changed, we realized that we needed to be prepared for the worst. And we want to just celebrate the fact that we didn't experience the worst. Actually, we were feeling really, really privileged and really, really grateful. And that despite a pandemic going on, we've been able to raise $3,500 for Helping Hands, helping grants to help those that maybe were feeling financial insecurity and instability during this time. We continued, yes, thank you. We continued our ability to support and partner with Unidos por Siempre. So for those that don't know, yes, this is a children's home in Tijuana where we approached our partnership with them differently than I think a lot of churches have in the past. I think a lot of people just show up for an event once a quarter and are like, here, we're here, let's do a craft, and then we're going to leave, and you're going to forget about us, and we're going to forget about you. But that's not the way we wanted to approach this partnership. Instead, we wanted to be a consistent, reliable, and dependable source of resources for them, whether we could show up or not. And we have continued to give $3,000 in 2020, $1,500 in 2021, and we just continue to do amazing things during what has been a really, really, really tough time. So I just want to say humbly and genuinely, thank you. Thank you for continuing to support Sojo and the mission of spiritual, social, and emotional wholeness. So I'm going to hand over to Laura to talk a little bit about what we're experiencing right now.
Yeah, thank you so much for continuing to donate, especially during the pandemic. I mean, everyone was going through a really difficult time financially and just, with health and stuff, so thank you. So to give you a little bit of a picture on our monthly expenses, and how much we get in terms of donations a month. In 2021, Sojo on average has been receiving about $10,700 in donations. And in 2021, again, Sojo spends about $10,800 a month. So if that was all that we were depending on, we would technically be about $100 in the hole every month. But we were able to secure some additional funds through PPP, so the Payroll Protection Program, both in 2020 and in 2021. That was about $18,000 in 2020 and $22,000 in 2021. So that helped us out a lot. We used all of those funds for payroll. So because of that, we were able to maintain a little bit of a reserve. And so now, if we stay at the same giving trend, we can continue on for a few months because of that reserve. But it will run out if we don't get an increase. So I just wanted to point that out. We are running on a, shoestring budget because just PPP has run out. So that's it.
So what's on the screen behind me, you can see some of the actual numbers. So for those that don't know me, I'm a bit of a numbers nerd. This is what I do for a living. I'm in corporate finance, and I kind of love it. But you can see what we've showed here is the average monthly giving, the total donations, and the average donation. And you can see that has declined kind of 25-30%. And as the board and a leadership team, we recognized we needed to be really, really good stewards with the limited resources that we had. So we made a lot of cuts. There's a lot of discretionary spending that went away. When we weren't meeting in person here, we weren't paying rent here. We really tightened things up so that we could continue the things that were important, like the Helping Hands, like Unidos por Siempre, and to continue paying our staff as long as we could. So we're at this wonderful point where, as Laura indicated, we're running about $100 a month shy. We have a reserve, which is fantastic. And as a board, we've determined it's time for us to use that reserve to invest in Sojo. So we are actually going to grow our team a little bit, looking at a community coordinator role. We had Sarah in that role for the last several years. As you all know, her family has moved, and she's kind of stepped down from that role. But we're trying to level that role up, actually, and really bring in somebody focused on diversity and inclusion, engaging with the community, leading what we know is this wonderful, wonderful group of people we have in this wonderful space, virtually and in person. And so that's going to take an investment. Additionally, as we come back to in-person church, we have to start paying rent again, so that's also going to take an investment. And so we're being vulnerable and transparent here to recognize, like, this is a real thing, and despite kind of the way we have weathered this financial storm in the past, it's something that we're going to continue to experience, and so we're coming vulnerably and transparently to say, again, one, thank you for those that have continued to support the mission of this organization, and two, if you aren't yet and are so obliged and so resourced, please consider giving. We know it goes to wonderful, wonderful organizations, as kind of already shared. It goes to really fostering this mission of wholeness, and we know firsthand what that can do for people's lives. So just want to say thank you and give a last little shout out to Joybox.
Oop. If you're like me and you get slightly triggered by money talk, there's a therapy dog wandering that side of the room, so feel free to move on over that way.
Sunday mornings held me in these walls. I can still smell the coffee in the halls. Safe in the place they kept for me. Home in the space of my sure belief. I was told to give you what I know, lead you in the way that you should go. Love what remains when I walk away. What do you keep when I couldn't stay? It took years to tie the truth around my fingers, to salvage all these sparks out of the cinders, turning over tables for the love I couldn't leave. Little one, here's what I believe. You'll miss what you had to lose. You crave the last thing you choose. Once or twice you get it right, for every time you get it wrong. Somehow it all belongs. Somehow it all belongs.
You will find the beauty in the light, the captivating shadow in the sunshine. The cold in your bones is the fire that burns. The lesson you are is the way we learn.
And I will tie all these truths around your fingers, help you find the sparks among the cinders. I will turn over tables to defend the space for you to find your own way. You break what you try to keep. Come away when you're fast asleep. The rhythm and the melody, the silence and the song. Somehow it all belongs. Somehow it all belongs. Now we grace on grace on grace on grace. Now we grace on grace on grace. There will be grace on grace on grace. There will be grace. You pray like there's someone there. Learn to bend what you can't repair. And God, I hope you rock the boat till the river sways along. Somehow it all belongs. Somehow it all belongs.
with yesterday marking 20 years since 9/11. At Sojo, we want to hold space for that, and we also want to do it in a Sojo way, holding space for all the things that day brings up for us in our country. And so we're going to take a moment, and I'm going to pray, and I've set up just a simple prayer table in the back where you can light a candle. And I invite you at any point in our service at all, always, to get up in this room and use this room however you like. But I would love for you to go back there and light a candle. Prayer for us is something that we still very much believe in, but hoping to completely deconstruct what most of us were taught it was, and to instead build something new that is embodied and that is whole, that is a holding of space, or as it says back there on the plaque, an act of love. And so as we think about that 20-year anniversary, we don't just hold space for all of the lives lost that day or in the coming days, but all of the lives that were lost over the last 20 years. We also hold space for everything that day set in motion for who we've become, for the toll that it has taken on us psychologically, socially, emotionally. We just want to live out our mission of wholeness, right? Spiritual, social, emotional wholeness. And so we hold space in that way, thinking of everything that this day brings up for us and what it means for who we are. And we just, instead of reaching out to a God that's up there and far away, we turn inward. And we reflect on who we are. We remind ourselves that we are loved children of God, and so is everyone else. I'm going to read this prayer, and I invite you to go light a candle, to say your own prayer in your own heart and mind and body. Let's pray. When so much of our world is groaning with injustice and destruction, we are invited to turn to God, to one another. We are not meant to carry the struggles of the world alone. And so, in the spirit of collective embrace, may we share together in prayer for all that troubles our hearts. For all of the bodies in suffering, deprived of resources, withheld from care, or made into targets of violence, God, hear our prayers. For all whose spirits are in despair, those who are facing loss or grief, those who are isolated or struggling to accept their own worth, God, hear our prayers. For all of the ways power is wielded over communities and individuals, for those living under oppressive forces, for the temptation towards complicity with injustice, and for the ways the church sometimes uses you, O God, as a weapon rather than a tool for healing and liberation, God, hear our prayers. Just as we are not meant to shoulder the world's pain alone, we are equally invited to delight with one another in the joy that sustains us. And so for the beauty that grows around us, God, we give you thanks. For the gifts of shared meals and community and relationships that transform and sustain us, God, we give you thanks. For art and for music and for stories and for truths that foster love and connection, God, we give you thanks. For every source of courage in the face of all that makes us afraid, God, we give you thanks. For your presence within and around us in our highs and lows, our hope and despair, God, we give you thanks. Hear our prayers and deepen our willingness to show up with and for one another, sharing in each other's burdens and working for one another's protection and care. Amen.
When you are alone, when peace is a river that's distant go I go.
Hello. My name's Colby. I'm one of the co-pastors here at Sojourn. And if you are in a position where you want to do this and you're comfortable and you'd like to, I'm just going to really quick invite you to stand, just because I realize we've been sitting for like the last half hour or so, and if you're like me, you might just need to roll those shoulders. You might need to stretch out, little super person pose. You might want to just twist the back. And with that beautiful mask still trapping everything, take a deep breath in and exhale. And maybe put a hand on your heart or your abdomen, somewhere where you can be reminded of your body and your lifeblood and your beingness. Take another deep breath in and out. And to the one who gives life indiscriminately, to the one whom we might direct our gratitude, to the one in whom we live and move and have our being, we say thank you. And as best as we know what it means, we say we love you. You can grab a seat. As I was all morning trying to sing along, which, by the way, two of those songs, the last two songs we just sang, were written by the musicians that were standing up here. And I just continue to be blown away by the gift that it is to have humans like that in our community. So someone online was asking what the name of that song was 2 songs ago, and that's called Somehow It All Belongs, which was inspired by a message that Pastor Kate gave 2 years ago and written by Karen and Ben and Matthew, and is going to be recorded at some point, right, Ben? You've been threatening for 2 years to do that. It's coming. The new microphone comes this week. Great. Now you have an accountability partner known as all of us. But yeah, so I was singing along and I had this mask, and I was watching some of you do the same game that I'm doing, which is about every 3 lines, you got to readjust the mask, because as you're singing, it sneaks down, and you're like just constantly adjusting the mask. I'm like, what is life? What is this? I've never done this before. And that's kind of what I want to talk with you about just here in a few moments together, is what is this life? And we've never done it before, and maybe that's why it's so hard right now. And tiring. Maybe for some of you it doesn't feel super hard right now, but it might be a little extra tiring. And I want to normalize that and say that makes a whole lot of sense. And here's where I'm going to start. Our mission at Sojourn, and Stephen, thank you for mentioning this, is to foster spiritual, social, and emotional wholeness. And I hope today to offer something that will be a bit of a help in that emotional wholeness department. And I'll start with Dr. Lisa Feldman Barrett, a neuroscientist who's done extensive research into the field of emotions. And her groundbreaking TED Talk, which I highly recommend, is called this: You aren't at the mercy of your emotions, your brain creates them. So go check that TED Talk out later today. And it introduces us to some data that reveals that, contrary to popular belief, and this was certainly the belief I had prior to Dr. Lisa's talk, contrary to popular belief, emotions are not hardwired into our brain. Like, there's not really emotions in our brain at all, as it turns out. At least not in the ways we think. We often think that emotions are like these mythical circuits that are buried deep in some ancient part of our brain, and they happen to us. Like, we're at the mercy of them. Like, I can't help it that I'm having this emotion right now. I can't help it. But Dr. Lisa suggests through her research that emotions, maybe it could be better described as guesses that our brains make on our behalf. Like, our brains try to explain the stimuli that's happening in our body. Our stomach feels a certain way, our shoulders are tight, our head's a little swimmy. And these physiological occurrences are happening, and they may, in and of themselves, not have any particular meaning, per se, but our brain, to try to keep us alive, tries to make a best guess as to what might be happening, and so it gives us an emotion to feel. And it says, here, this might help. Thank you. I think that's the appropriate response. So Dr. Lisa says that emotions that seem to happen to you are actually made by you. What? Emotions that seem to happen to you are actually made by you. When it comes down to it, we aren't really reacting to the world as it's happening. We're reacting to our brain's predictions about what might be happening. And here's the kicker. Those predictions by our brain are developed and guided by our past experiences in life. And how it works is this. We engage with the environment. We have this physical stimuli happening in us, and our brain cycles through its Rolodex of past experiences, and it tries to guess, what is this moment like? What is it like? Not what is it, because there's really no way to know what is happening with objective precision, but what is it like? What is this moment like? And your brain cycles through all the things that you've seen and experienced and heard and smelled and tasted and been like, so what is it like? What is it like? Grabs onto something, and tells you, this is our guess. Here, have this feeling about it. And now you know whether you should run or laugh or cry or eat something. And it's all of our brain trying to make a best guess. However, if we don't, and this is a fascinating point, if we don't have a good match, if the brain cycles through the Rolodex and doesn't really have a good match for what this moment might be like, we are in what neuroscientists like Dr. Lisa call a state of experiential blindness. Experiential blindness. And she demonstrates it this way, and I'm going to demonstrate it for you as well. She puts this photo on the screen. Go ahead and put this next photo on the screen, and it's just this black and white blob photo. Kind of like a Rorschach. Rorschach or Rorschach? Doesn't matter. Not the point. You know what I'm talking about. This black and white blob. And your brain, just like, oh, black and white blobs. I have no frame of reference for what this is. But then, add a little more color and a little more detail, layer on this next picture. Oh, I know what that's like. That's a snake. Oh, okay. Now, with the added detail and the color and the depth, your brain instantly finds the Rolodex of snake. You've seen that before. You know what that is. And now you're looking at it and you're like, I know what this is like. This is snake. Now, you can remove and go right back to the previous photo, and your brain has a sense for what you can still kind of see snake there. You can still kind of see snake there because your brain now has a frame of reference for what that is like. It can make a more accurate prediction of what might be happening in this moment. Snake. If we don't have enough past experience with a particular phenomena, or we don't have accurate concepts, and I'll come back to that in a minute, then our brain's just going to make the best guess that it can with a general approximation. I don't know. Maybe it's kind of like this. Or sometimes I feel like we just end up getting the Apple computer rainbow spinning wheel where our brain's just like, I got nothing. Don't know what that is. Can't help you. You're on your own. Just black and white blobs. Okay, here's another image. I submit to you, prior to March of 2020, your brain might be having the same response to that it did to the black and white blobs a minute ago. Unless some of you played like Little Big Planet on the PlayStation, you might think, oh, that's a level from Little Big Planet. I don't know. Or some of you watch Making It with Nick Offerman and Amy Poehler, and you're like, oh, it's a craft for making it. But other than that, prior to March of 2020, your brain would be like, don't really have a frame of reference, don't know what that is. And then I would suggest that more than even beyond just a picture, it's just kind of a metaphor for that we don't really know what life is like right now. None of us have lived a pandemic life before. None of us have lived a pandemic life before. Our brains don't really know what to recognize in a pandemic world. It's almost like we've all been living in this perpetual state of experiential blindness for like 20 months now. So when you stare off into the distance, when your eyes are just sort of glazed over, you mumble to the person next to you, "What is life?" I submit to you, this is not just an existential query into the perplexity of being. I submit to you, this is a scientific query of your brain legitimately trying to figure out, what is this like? What is this like? We don't have a model or a concept for this kind of life. So if you're anything like me and you feel from one day to the next that you're not always sure how to function, what to do, or why, all I can say is, of course you can't. Of course. That makes all the sense in the world. We're trying to navigate this world of black and white blobs. No wonder we're tired and scared and confused and frustrated. Our sweet brains have been working overtime trying to figure out, what is this state of existence like? When your brain is used to just working in just as quick as it can, as efficiently as it can, so you don't even know that it's working. It's been having to work like overtime for 20 months. What is this like? Okay, let me return a minute ago to what I said about sometimes if you don't have accurate concepts. So you may not have the actual experience to know what this is like. Also, we may not have the accurate concept or term to access what this is like. In Dr. Barrett's research, she writes about this term, and I love this term, emotional granularity. Say it with me. Emotional granularity. Don't you just love the way granularity rolls off? It's a fun word to say. Thanks for entertaining me. And this is the process. Emotional granularity is the process of breaking down large emotional experiences, vague concepts, into more precise and accurate descriptions. So those with high emotional granularity are able to construct finer-grained emotional articulations of their experiences than those with lower granularity. Low granularity is just saying things are good or they're bad. Things are awesome or they're crappy. Like, those are my buckets. Those are the categorizations I have. This is low granularity. High granularity can break down. It's not just awesome, it's joyful, it's thrilling, it's relaxing, it's hopeful, it's inspired, it's prideful, it's adoring, it's grateful, it's blissful. You can get more precise with the concepts, with the terms, to be able to name what is happening. Or instead of just saying, it's crappy, you might have angry, aggravated, alarmed, spiteful, grumpy, remorseful, gloomy, mortified, uneasy, afraid, etc. And these finer-grained emotional descriptors, they add that color and that depth, like that photo of the snake. They add those colors and the shadows and the details. But even more than that, they can help name what we're actually experiencing, which contributes, believe it or not, it contributes to our emotional well-being. To say that differently, there is a pretty consistently able to track correlation that I would even agree is causation between the capacity of your granularity, the higher it is, the more precise you can get with your emotional well-being. Which is to say, those with very low emotional granularity, who can only categorize things as good, bad, awesome, crappy, tends to rank lower on sort of that emotional well-being versus those who are able to articulate and understand and be able to name with greater precision what's happening in their emotional landscape. And this can happen. Here's the good news. Because some of you right now are, great, what do I have to do? Start going to therapy to get better? Well, yes. That's correct. But also, just learning new words and new concepts. Just filling in your Rolodex, just learning new words and concepts can contribute to increased granularity of your emotions. And so that's what I want to do now is I want to help give you some new language because I was thinking about what an analogy would be. And here's part of why granularity is important, not just for well-being, but it helps you know what you're feeling and then what to do about it. Which is to say, if you just think, I'm sad, it can feel a bit overwhelming about what do you do with that? Where do I start? But if you can break sad into, I feel lonely. Oh, well, now I'm way more clear on what I'm actually feeling. Now I can have a prescription for loneliness. It's like a doctor, if a doctor's just like, oh, you're in pain, here's some ibuprofen, Mikey. Like, that might be helpful, but if we discover that Mikey's got a real specific sort of pain coming from a particular problem, then the doctor can prescribe something that actually targets that with more precision. So recap so far. If emotions are not just things happening to you, but are concepts or guesses that your brain makes, then an implication is that we actually have more control over our emotional landscape than we might realize. But it's challenging when our brain doesn't have the past experiences to draw from, and yet what we can do to help manage or at least assist in that is to make steps at improving our emotional granularity, to improve that. And we can improve that by learning new words and new concepts to fill in these black and white blobs, particularly of pandemic life. A couple weeks ago, I had a string of about 5 days. It started Monday morning and lasted probably all the way through Friday, where I just could not get past the meh. I would submit to you it's a pretty low granularity feeling. But nonetheless, that was all I had. Meh. You know the meh, right? The meh is like stagnation. It's kind of this mild emptiness. It's when you kind of just mosey through your day, just kind of existing. Not really feeling like you're accomplishing all that much. But you're also not like, but I just want to stay in bed all day either. It's just kind of this dulled experience of meh. But then I read an article this week that was actually written back in April of 2021 from organizational psychologist Adam Grant. Thank you, Kate and Karen, for bringing Adam Grant into my life, who published this article back in the New York Times. And I think this articulated well what I was feeling beyond just meh. And the feeling is called this: languishing. Yes, some of you know that of which I speak. Like, oh, I remember when that article made the rounds. Go check it out, New York Times, Adam Grant. There's a name for the blah you're feeling. It's called languishing. Languishing is this space on the mental health spectrum somewhere between flourishing on one end, which is like the peak of mental well-being, where you got a strong sense of meaning and you know that you matter, and then you have depression on the other end, where you are just entirely drained, you feel completely worthless. Languishing is like this middle space. You're not totally despondent, but you're also not firing on all cylinders. You're fine, I'll get out of bed today, but then you're like, okay, but now what? Now that I'm out of bed. And Adam Grant proposes that languishing might be the dominant emotion in the year of 2021 as the dredges of this pandemic continue to impact every aspect of our life. With each new and then different again recommendation from the CDC, with each next news story about the variant here and the breakouts there, every time something at our work changes, every time something at school with our kids change, every time there's an abrupt change in our rhythm, in our job opportunities, every time a date gets canceled, this prolonged sense of loneliness, all of this takes its toll on us. Of course it does. We've never been here before. We don't know what this is like. So, if you find yourself, this is what has been so impactful for me with this term languishing. If you found yourself as of late feeling like your motivation is a little dulled, if your ability to focus seems drained of both its power and its duration, I can't focus for very long, and when I can, it doesn't seem very potent. If maybe you wouldn't necessarily say I'm depressed, but you're also like, but I am kind of struggling. If maybe you're not totally burned out, but you're also not super fired up, then I suggest you might be languishing. So then before we close our service today, I'm going to give you just 5 really quick practical things you can do, even starting today, to help put some practices into motion for this. Okay, now I have a prescription, it's languishing. Here are some things I can do. It's not just happening to me. It is my brain attempting to make a best guess on what is happening, and I can actually contribute to crafting what that is and shape that in a particular way and help my brain out to maybe give me emotions and feelings that are more helpful.
Can I just have the dog for my language?
Okay. Practice 1 is get that dog. So here's 5 quick practices. Number 1 is to name what you're feeling. To name it. There's power, friends, in naming it. And so if languishing fits well for you, it's yours, obviously. Just have it. Use it. Name it. But then see if you can get even more granular about it. What flavor of meh? What variety of languish might it be? Are you feeling unseen? Are you feeling unmotivated? Are you feeling overwhelmed? Are you feeling that there are certain needs that are being met? Can you get down into what it might actually be? Can you name that? Can you bring it out of your Rolodex and say, oh, this is, I think, more precisely what it is. And that leads to step number 2, which is write. Write out what you're experiencing. Now, some of you do this regularly, and I'm in awe and jealous of you. Some of you have never really experimented with journaling and just writing out your, not writing it to anybody, just getting it out of you. I do this every once in a while, and every time I do, I'm like, damn, this is like the best practice ever. I'm glad I do it once every 3 years. Can you write about your experience? It has a way of sort of neutralizing some of its power when it gets out of our insides and onto a page. Be like, oh, there it is. I see it. Hey, brain, let me help you out with it a little bit. Maybe it's not the worst thing over here. Maybe that's just what it seems like, so that's what you're telling me. But maybe it's just this. Maybe I have this particular thing going on that I can address that. Oh, that makes sense. Or number 3, talk about what you're feeling. This is part of why people pay therapists, is because their job is we come to them with black and white blobs and they help us fill in the details. Like, oh, okay, that's what it is. It's not just my life is crappy. It's I'm feeling very unfulfilled at my job. Now I have something to do. That's not me saying, that was just a hypothetical. I love my job. Talk about what you're feeling. And if it's not a therapist, that's totally understandable, but do you have a friend or a family member that you could say, and don't languish dump. Get permission first. Hey, can I talk to you about what I've been experiencing? Can I just share with you what I'm feeling? And then if they say yes, just talk about it. And they might be able to reflect back to you some of the color and the depth of your black and white blobs. And then number 4, tend to your body. Tend to your body. Remember earlier when I mentioned that the brain guesses what emotions to create based on physiological happenings? Well, your brain isn't always the smartest thing in the world. No offense. It's doing the best it can. But sometimes when you have that sort of knotted feeling in your stomach, your brain is like, panic, panic, run, run, freak out. And maybe you just need a banana. You might just be hungry. Your brain's like, ragey. But maybe all you need is just a snack, a glass of water. So tend to your body. And then even if languishing is a particular place where you might be, get out, like move your body, go for a walk. If you do the yogas. If you run, if you hike, like moving your body has a way of reminding your brain that we are not on death's door here. We have life, we have some agency, and just moving your body can do wonders for your well-being, which I know if you're like me, you know this. Like none of this is new information. People have been telling us for years now the connection between moving your body with your emotional well-being. I'm just hoping today to put a few more connectors in place to show why that might actually be real. And also, the 5th thing is another thing that people have been telling us for years and we keep ignoring, and it's this. If languishing has been where you're at, put your phone away. Get away from social media. Again, nothing new here. In fact, I would submit to you, this fifth point, we could just end every spiritual nugget for a year on any topic we give, and it would be a pretty helpful, practical tip. Put your phone away, take a break from social media. These things are not the best. Other than you, live stream, stay on. These things are not all that great for our emotional well-being. The people who run these organizations and these institutions do not have your emotional well-being at top of mind. And we know this. We know this. I feel a little bit like, you know how when you walk into a grocery store and it's got the automatic doors that open and then you step in the threshold and there's that fan right there that just blasts the air in your face? As someone who is overly concerned about their hair, I hate those things. Leave me alone. I feel a little bit like my phone and specifically social media is like that fan, and I'm trying to enter a store of well-being. I'm trying to enter into a store of contentedness and peace, and then I open the phone and just like, nope, you shall not have me. Okay. Maybe if languishing is where you're at, maybe you just take a break from the constant social comparison of social media and maybe find relaxing come your way. All right. So that's it. That's my little nugget for hoping to help us move towards emotional well-being this week. Because life right now has been, life right now is, and life right now will continue to be a novel experience of navigating complex and changing realities. Our sweet brains are doing their best to keep up, but it is taxing, exhausting work. So may we be kind to ourselves. May we be kind to ourselves, knowing that we're doing the best we can with what we've got. May we be kind to others, knowing that they're doing the best they can with, they've never gone through this either. And may we see that even though many things right now are way outside of our control, feels like that reality has been amplified. There actually are some things we can do to help shape our own emotional landscape. And in so doing, may we help ourselves and help one another move toward greater emotional wholeness. Amen? Amen. All right, let's transition to communion.
Speaking of communion, if you've been here in person with us, we've tried all these different things. First Sunday we had juice boxes and cracker bags, and then we went to just doing a blessing for you outside with no elements, and then we've done juice boxes and cracker bags again, and we've done nothing. And what I think I'm finding, especially through the survey results so far, but keep filling those out, is that people really want to do communion, but we all agreed that there must be a better way than juice boxes and cracker bags, right? There's got to be. So I've been doing some research, but I just want to say if you know of anything out there, there's got to be. The only things I can find are, of course, there's in plenty those little, single-use traditional communion things, but they all have a giant cross and weird scripture pulled out of context on them. So I'm kind of wanting to stay away from that, as well as less plastic, right? There's got to be a less plastic, less weird Bible thing out there. There's got to be. So I'm on it, I'm looking, but if you happen upon something like that, or just researching weird things, let me know. Kate@sojourngrace.com. Okay, that's all I wanted to say. And so for today, you go ahead.
Yeah, today we're gonna invite you to, as the band continues to do a song for us, to kind of make a line to head out into the courtyard, and Kate and I will be standing out there in the sun. And as you come out, we will, if you have a name tag, we'll say your name. If not, that's fine, and we'll just give you a verbal blessing. We'll look you in the eyeballs, and we'll give you a verbal blessing. and then you can sort of turn to the left and cycle back in here. And it's, you know, it's not a bread and cup, but it's also not nothing. I mean, it gives us a chance to look at you.
It's a moment.
It's a moment. And so we're going to do that. We'll meet you out in the courtyard. Feel free to make a line and head out that way.
And live streamers, I love you. The music will be going, so you can enjoy the song and also bless each other, which you always do. You're amazing. But just speak to each other and give each other your blessings.
We'll see you out there if you would like.
There is a shadow in the hallway trying to frighten you. Don't let the darkness surround you. You can make it through. Don't you give up on the kingdom. Think it's crashing in. No, it ain't worth all that worry. They'll still let you in. Someday soon these worries roll on. Someday soon enough. Sometimes the weight of decisions will try to bury you. Don't let the shame tell you something that you know ain't true. But just 'cause you feel like a stranger, that don't mean you are. Oh God, I could use a reminder of what forgiveness is for. Someday soon these worries roll on. Someday soon enough. 'Cause sometimes the cold wind blows, sometimes the wolves rush in. Don't think the battle's over just 'cause you say amen. Ooh, amen. I said, oh, amen. 'Cause someday
cold wind blows. Sometimes the wolves rush in. Don't think the battle's over just 'cause you say. And then sometimes the cold wind blows. Sometimes the wolves rush in. Don't think the battle's over just 'cause you say amen.
So delighted to have you with us here this morning in person and online. I'd like to invite you to stand now as we close our gathering with our benediction. These are the words that we've said every Sunday for the last 7+ years, and it is a call to go forth into this week with bravery because you are a loved child of God. And then also be kind because everyone else is also a loved child of God. Pre-pandemic, we would have everybody hold hands and it would be sort of this nice touching moment of connection. We're just not ready to do. You don't have a mic on. The people couldn't hear you, and I'm glad. Pay no attention to what she said. Pay no attention. So with your energy, if you want to connect to the person next to you, and obviously if you came with your loved ones, you can hold their hand. You can do whatever you want with your loved ones. Also forget what I just said.
Pay no attention to what he says, even though he has the mic.
All right. Would someone lead us this morning? Because you're a child of God.
Be kind.
Because so is everyone else. We love you. Have a wonderful week. We'll see you next Sunday.
Bye.